Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a fundamental and kind of weird quirk of your own mind. Why you see faces in clouds, find meaning in pure coincidences, and just can't help but connect dots that aren't even there. Yeah, we're going to look right under the hood of your own personal belief engine.
So to kick things off, let's start with a little puzzle. I'm about to show you three completely different scenarios. All I want you to do is find the one single thread that ties them all together.
All right, first up, picture an old TV, one of those ancient ones, and you're just staring at the static, the snow. And then, for just a second, you see it, a familiar shape, maybe even a face looking back at you from the chaos. Okay, next. Think about a superstition. You know, like having a lucky pair of socks? You wore them once during a big game and your team won, and now you can't imagine watching a game without them. Those two events are locked together in your mind. And for the last one, picture one of those classic conspiracy boards you see in movies. You know the one, covered in newspaper clippings, photos, and notes, all connected with a chaotic web of pins and strings, weaving unrelated events into some grand secret plot.
So, did you figure it out? The answer to our little puzzle isn't some modern quirk. Nope, it lies deep, deep in our evolutionary past. Back when spotting patterns wasn't just a habit, it was the absolute key to staying alive.
You have to remember, for our early ancestors, the world was a high-stakes game of connect the dots. Being able to see that a certain track in the dirt meant a predator was nearby, or that this berry was safe but that one was poison, that was literally the difference between finding your next meal and becoming someone else's. Missing a real pattern was fatal. So all of this intense survival pressure, day in and day out, it hammered a core feature into our minds. And you gotta understand, this isn't a bug. It's a feature, one that was programmed into us for a very, very good reason. This whole phenomenon has a name. It's called apophenia. And really, all it is our tendency to see meaningful connections in what is otherwise just random, meaningless noise. Our brain's pattern detection system isn't just turned on, it's permanently dialed up to 11.
And it all comes down to some really simple evolutionary math. Imagine you're an early human. You can make two kinds of mistakes. A type 1 error is seeing a pattern that isn't really there. You hear a rustle in the grass, you think lion, and you run. The cost? A bit of wasted energy. But a type 2 error, that's thinking the rustle is just the wind when it is a lion. The cost for that mistake? Everything.
So it's no surprise that evolution overwhelmingly favored the brain that made a ton of false connections. It designed a brain that's hardwired to be better safe than sorry, basically turning our minds into these incredibly powerful belief engines, constantly trying to find a signal in all the noise. And this belief engine of ours, it does way more than just see predators hiding in the grass. Its output has shaped human culture for thousands of years. We're talking about the very foundation of magic, of superstition, and yeah, even our most modern myths. I mean, here's a perfect example of how a ritual gets started. Imagine a tribe is in the middle of a terrible drought. The shaman decides to try a brand new, complicated dance. A few days later, by pure random chance, it rains. Apophenia kicks right in, and a powerful, unbreakable link is forged. The dance caused the rain. And just like that, a belief is born from a coincidence. And this system doesn't always work alone. It often has a partner, a cognitive sidekick, that researchers call the Hyperactive Agent Detection Device, or HAD for short. Now, this is the part of our brain that gives us that spooky feeling we're being watched or makes us attribute intention to things, like thinking, the storm is angry. Then apophenia jumps in to provide the reason, finding a pattern to explain it. The storm is angry because we broke a taboo. And this whole process can get supercharged by our own brain chemistry. The neurotransmitter dopamine basically acts like a volume knob for a pattern detection system. Higher levels of dopamine make us way more likely to find significance in random coincidences, turning up the signal and making it easier than ever to connect those dots, whether they're real or not. Okay, so let's fast forward. Take that ancient brain wiring that was built for the savannah and drop it into the 21st century. We're not scanning the horizon anymore. We're scrolling through an infinite ocean of data, and our poor pattern recognition engines are working some serious overtime. So what does that lead to? Well, it leads directly to the rise of conspiracy theories. At their core, they're basically just modern myths. They satisfy our brain's deep, deep need to find a simple, intentional pattern, secret agents pulling the strings, inside of what are often just really complex, chaotic, and totally random world events.
So, this all sounds like a bug, right? A glitch in our mental software. But what if it's not? What if this tendency to see patterns that aren't really there isn't just an evolutionary mistake? What if it's also the secret ingredient to our greatest insights? This brings us to a really fascinating cognitive trait known as positive schizotypy. Now that sounds like a mouthful, but it basically describes a personality style that's linked to magical thinking and having unusual experiences. But here's the kicker. It is also directly connected to creativity. So on the one hand, yeah, this cognitive style is the very engine of apophenia. It's what drives that tendency to find false patterns, to believe in superstitions, and to build those elaborate conspiratorial worldviews we were just talking about. But, and this is a huge but, here's the other side of that exact same coin. That ability to forge new connections between seemingly unrelated ideas, the ones that everybody else misses, that is the very wellspring of divergent thinking and creative genius. I mean, just think about that for a second. It is a profound, double-edged sword. The very same cognitive wiring that might lead one person to believe in a hidden plot could lead another person to a breakthrough scientific theory or a revolutionary piece of art. It's the tool of both the ancient shaman and the modern innovator. So maybe the goal isn't to try and shut down our inner pattern matcher. Maybe it's about becoming better pilots of our own minds, learning to test our connections, to seek out different views, and to just stay curious. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. If the hardware in our brain for delusion is the very same hardware that powers genius, how do any of us ever really know when we've uncovered a profound truth and when we're just seeing another face in the clouds?